How are you? Welcome to Critical Moves of Telesur. To the already known of Boko Haram actions, there has been some other actions by another terrorist group. This is the self-called group. Why is there so much extreme terrorism in this group? Who finances them? What is their geopolitical ambition? And who are the external alliances? This is what we're going to be analyzing today. Let's begin. Let's start with the recent attacks of the G5 that held some conversations on Sunday after the assassination of many soldiers under a terrorist attack. Let's hear the declaration. The threat of the terrorist actions to the countries of Sahel is increasing in intensity. The attacks and their military positions, the assassination of civilians, and the leaders, the local leaders, and the people of Burkina Faso and Niger are even more frequent. Our demands to the international community are well-founded. First, because they're responsible of what's happening to us through their disastrous intervention in Libya, and then because security is a common interest. The people of the Sahel should not be alone to undergo the heavy burden of the war. It's more than necessary that we work very fast to work together and to support all of the countries of the region and those of the international community. It's crucial for the success of this endeavor. Let's locate Niger. That is the problem of what we're analyzing today. Nigeria. This is officially the Republic of Niger. It has the borders are Algeria, Libya, Chad, Nigeria, Benin, Burkina Faso, and Mali. Its area is 1,267,000 kilometers. It used to be a colony of France and became independent in 1960. It's a country rich in minerals. Among those are carbon, phosphate, gold, petroleum, stanium, zinc, molybdenum, phosphate, and uranium. Just only 3.9% of the territory is good for agriculture. The land is totally dry, and desertification is making it vulnerable. Regardless of their resources, this is one of the poorest countries in Africa. There is approximately two-thirds of the population lives under the poverty limit. This makes the second country poorest in the world, just behind the Central African Republic. As we saw in an introduction, there's a terrorist group that is called the Islamic State. Who is part of this? Who makes it? How does it operate? Let's review this. The self-proclaimed, known as ISIS in English and Daesh in Arab, was originally an entity that was part of Al-Qaeda. Experts say that it was created by the U.S. intelligence with the support of the UK and the Mossad from Israel, the intelligence of Pakistan and Saudi Arabia. Their origins go back to 2004, a year after the invasion of the United States on Iraq. Ever since, it has been changing their names and their objectives. In 2006, it was replaced by Daulat and by other organizations. In 2013, it already had a considerable force, both in weapons and resources. And where do they get this money? From the petroleum oil that they have control over. What they're trying to do is to join their many regions under their terrorist group. The armed group has over 20,000 soldiers. And what they do is they demember and they decapitate their victims. Their name has nothing to do with the religion. They have no relation with the Islamic Jihad. They are very well organized. The self-proclaimed Islamic State. But what is a Boko Haram? Let's see what the information of Ahmadinejad of the year of today that says Nigeria, Boko Haram. What's the plan? Boko Haram has no ending. Since the beginning, there have been attacks against the civilians as well as military objectives. And the attacks of Boko Haram beyond the border of Niger are frequent and they're spectacular. And they've been spreading all the way to Chad, Niger, and Cameroon. There has been a multinational alliance to combat them, and Cameroon, Benin, Niger, and Nigeria have joined forces. The Cameroon military are putting up with their attacks, and they have already lost 1,800 people, while more than 500 million have been displaced. Some Western countries have given money and support, both covertly and openly, are trying to make these groups are making them grow. So it's important to ask ourselves if that is not the plan itself. Another website that helps us complement the information is the Periódico. This is on June 29. It says Niger, poor Niger, rich Niger. There's a company, a French company, that extracts minerals from Niger. It's not only the French, but there's also Australian companies, Canadian companies, from India. And everything they've been able to extract has not gone back to the well-being of the people. There has been increasing attacks on the gold mines, and this has paralyzed the production while the mountains of Airi, there are bands of criminals from Libya and Chad, and of course this is they detained the extraction of gold. So here we have the outsides of these of many buildings are destroyed in a country where everything is extreme and there is nothing. A place where more than half of the population is without running water and have no access to sanitary services. Where 48 people under the age of 5 has slow growth. And they just depend on the food that is given by the World Food Organization. Maybe this is why Niger has put its resilience to the test. It's been one of the strongest countries to move the free trade agreement that has gone forward on May 31st. Well, let me take advantage to suggest this article that's called The Border of Niger and Algeria. This is written it's published in Prensa Latina, it's written by Julio Marejón. It says, on the border of Niger and Nigeria, there are two threats, violence and delinquency, and terrorism that constitutes a big risk and extremely serious for both for the residents as well as for those who have been displaced.
Cuando se comportan como procesos sistemáticos que sobrepasan la rutina doméstica y pueden generar serias crisis en términos de seguridad. El terrorismo es una página negra en tanto la delincuencia común asume un rango menor, aunque los actos denunciados por la población afectada sobrecogen.
This affects everybody of the country, and this goes 40,000 people have had to leave Niger. According to the High Commissioner of the United Nations for Refugees, they're trying to flee from the attacks on children and on women. Many times they are kidnapped, killed, raped, and many other crimes. According to the United Nations, this is due to the escalate of violence in the Nigerian countries.
Donde perpetran las agresiones grupos distintos de Boko Haram, todo lo cual llevó a una nueva emergencia humanitaria
has led us to a medical emergency. The authorities on both sides of the border have signed an agreement that is that will try to curtail all of the crimes that happen there. And there is a terror imposed by Boko Haram ever since 2009. This is already 10 years. The equation, although it's complex and there's many dark spots, there is a common spot, which is that there is a lack of work. And obviously this is a great place for any of these movements to flourish. Boko Haram has been able to elevate its level of life. However, the authorities of Boko Haram offer a motorcycle and a woman to those who they recruit. And of course, many fall for this. This is important news, and we want to go to Africa thanks to Oscar Repelde, who's our correspondent, who is in Congo. Oscar, can you please tell us what's going on? Hi, good afternoon. The attack that killed 71 soldiers of Niger has traumatized the country. There were hundreds of militaries well uniformed. This happened on December 10th. And then there was a reivindication of the Islamic State. And this always goes on for the destabilization and fear that for the last years is growing in spiral in Niger, but also in Burkina Faso and in Mali, where the attacks are continuous. And regardless of the agreements, of the Bremen agreements of 2015, and the agreements of both countries, the sadness, the profound sadness that has caused this attack has multiplied the attacks on the government, especially on the intervention from France. Their utility is questioned by the civil society and the opposition. France is giving them arguments from this confusion. There are many who benefit, like the jihad, that we barely know anything about them. And apparently they think that they create traumas, they create violence. However, these people go through the borders as if they were allowed to, and they attack whenever they want, and then they disappear in the nature of the Sahel. After the attack of Sinadev, that has been the most deadly of the 2015, up until the summit that was supposed to be held, and to assess the military intervention on behalf of France. This has been delayed up until January next year. They have asked the leaders of these 5 countries that France has no interest, no neo-colonist interest in this territory, and they're only answering the call for help of these 5 countries. The 5 countries of the Sahel are already announcing their intention to ask for more help, both the United States, who already gave them, and special troops, so they can have a better control on the borderlines. These controls have been held ever since the G7 met, and there has been nothing to help how. Maybe the country should invest a bit more and try to have the participation of the communities, make them responsible. And this should come along with the empowering and social justice. Maybe not so these attacks will cease from one day to another, but to prevent that the jihadist movements can lay some roots in this territory of Africa. Let's go back to Caracas. Thank you, Oscar. And part of what he was telling us is already set here in our strategic move, so you can participate with us. Give us your opinion. Let's read it. Western governments are having conjoint actions with the governments of Sahel to eradicate terrorism in this region of Africa, but they have not been able to do it. Why? Who finances these groups? So conveniently, they can serve themselves. What's your opinion? Let's go to our first pause. We'll be right back.
The Pakistani journalist Tariq Ali examines the mass media influence promoted by imperialism. Get access to the analysis of the socio-economic and political life of the whole South America on our screen and platform in English. A critical place committed to the truth to determine the major events that transform the world today. Mondays. Only on Telesur.
Es una reacción de
It's a
profunda
reaction
tristeza,
of
porque es la
profound
mayor
sadness
pérdida que
because
ha
it's the
sufrido el
biggest
ejército
loss
de Níger desde el
of the
comienzo de la
Niger
guerra.
military.
Es como si una unidad completa de
It's like
nuestro
a whole
ejército
unity
hubiera sido
of our
completamente destruida.
military
Es
forces has
Todo el
been
mundo habla
destroyed.
de eso.
Everybody speaks about this, but where are the drones? Where are the combat airplanes? Where are those people? Well, they're not here for us. Those forces of the foreign countries are not effective. They just have to leave. This is unacceptable. With all of the technology we have, with all of our allies, with all of that Niger has, it's terrible that they come and they destroy whatever they want and then leave. How have the authorities of Niger have confronted the terrorism attacks? Niger, as well as other countries of Africa, are victims of the terrorist groups. For this reason, for many years ago, they are always on a state of emergency, which was prolonged for 3 more months. The army of Niger has held control both on land and sea, and there was an action called Barkam. It helped to the south of Mali, and more than 30 terrorists were were retained. This area is huge. It's like 10 Frances. Ever since 2013, 19 French soldiers have been assassinated. There has also been U.S. troops that have fallen into terrorist attacks. This is why there are no attacks with the U.S. Niger has very weak military forces and an extensive lands, and there is no control over such lands. Some terrorist groups are asking to reivindicate some rights, and they attack strategic places, and they ask for better distribution of the oil revenues. Let's go forth with the first part of our analysis. Let's talk to Pablo Ofre from Chile. He's an expert in Latin America and the Maghreb. And this other specialist who is excellent in the Middle East, Pablo. There's a lot to ask ourselves about Niger and in general of the Sahel. And we have used this country as a pretext to go into the zone. This is a very strategic area, especially for their position and the extension that it has. In fact, Ray, hello. In fact, everything shows that there is a great amount of resources and the geostrategic location. Niger is in this zone between the Sahel and Sahel that is surrounded by powerful countries like Algeria, Nigeria, a country that must be put in context. But obviously it's the second most poorest in Africa. They have over 1 million square kilometers. That makes it one of the biggest countries in Africa with a population of 20 million people. But of course, their human index of growth are terrible. So when you say that there is a lack of security on the border, the lack of surveillance, it is important to see that there's a deficient army. There is a foreign army bases, both French and the U.S., all through the Sahel. That goes from the Djibouti all the way to the Atlantic. So these have the influence of that zone of Africa undoubtedly is under a neocolonialism. This is the presence of France, who wants to keep their imperialism attitude, and of course all of the attitude that the United States has in regards to military bases that go from Djibouti all throughout Africa. And they limit with countries like Libya and fragmented in countries like they're totally balkanized, especially because of the responsibility of those countries that have dominated the zone. France and the United States, a zone that is absolutely rich in natural resources, where Niger has an importance over France that comes far beyond the oil, but they have uranium. The French companies have a lot of interest in what's going on with Niger because of the uranium that will supply 80% to the nuclear plants of France. So there are political, geostrategic, and economic interests that France may have on the zone. Thank you very much, Pablo. With all of this analysis, I ask you to stay with us. We want to greet once again Nicola. Let's see this thesis that there could be a relationship between poverty, devastation, subdevelopment in the army forces, especially in Niger.
y la injerencia,
and the
más que
interference,
digamos que una ocupación solapada por parte de potencias
on behalf of
sobre todo
important Western countries.
Bueno, gusto saludarte, Ray.
Well,
y
thank you
también
for
un
having me,
caluroso
and a
saludo
big hug
a Pablo
to
Jofré, un gran analista que siempre
Pablo,
nos
who is
sorprende
always
con sus muy buenos
with us.
análisis.
He always has
Mira,
great
yo le
analysis.
agregaría a lo
Well, I
bueno
would
que ha
always
dicho
add
Pablo Jofré,
to what
el
Pablo
hecho
Cofre
de
said,
que
is
en toda
that
esta zona
in all of the
hay
zone,
dos tipos
there
de
are two
acciones
types of
armadas.
actions.
Por un lado está el terrorismo,
On one hand, it's
creado por
terrorism
Estados Unidos y
created by the
Francia
United
para
States and
justificar
France to
la
justify
presencia de sus
the
ejércitos
presence
en la
of
zona, y ellos
their
pretenden quedarse en la zona.
position in the
Además de
zone.
las,
They pretend to stay in the zone.
las explicaciones muy bien dadas por
And of
Pablo
course,
Jofré,
the explanation of
también
Pablo Cofre
desde
are
ahí
very well given,
controlan
because
otras
from there
zonas ricas
they can have the
y están
control,
a la mano, como en el caso del
like in the case of
cerca de los avatares que ocurren en el Egipto. De modo
Egypt.
que
So
ese es un tipo de terrorismo. El
this is
terrorismo
one type of
creado por
terrorism,
Estados Unidos,
terrorism
financiado por
caused
Estados
by the United
Unidos,
States and
por
also
Francia, y
paid by
también por Israel,
France,
que está presente en la zona.
UK,
Y por otro lado, los movimientos
and on the
nacionalistas
other hand, the
y de
nationalist
resistencia a la
groups
ocupación extranjera, que están muy bien definidos al
who
interior
are also trying to do
de
their
los
best to
Tuareg
clean up
del Sahel.
any body of water.
Hemos perdido la comunicación con Nicola.
We
pero
have
vamos a
lost
seguir
communication
entonces
with
con
Nicola.
Pablo, tomando como elemento también lo que acaba de decir Nicola, pudiéramos hablar entonces de un
Is it possible to
terrorismo
speak about a terrorism
fabricado por estas potencias extranjeras
that
para
is
su
carried
propio
forth
beneficio.
by
Y esto
the
echaría por
countries
tierra
themselves to
una
get
tesis que
benefits,
estábamos
and this
escuchando
would
incluso de
throw
nuestro
overboard
corresponsal
a thesis
diciendo
that says
que no tiene un objetivo
that they don't have a
específico. Estos grupos
specific
terroristas
objective.
solo les interesa
They're
matar y
just
matar.
interested
Cuantas
in
más muertes,
killing and
mejor.
killing.
Por un lado, pudiéramos echarla por tierra, o por otro lado, pudiéramos sustentar que mientras más muertes, mejor,
Can we
porque
say
eso
that
justificaría
as
el
more
hecho de que las
that
potencias
there's more
occidentales
deaths, then they're more
penetren con
powerful?
sus ejércitos en estas zonas del África?
What do you think?
Hay aquí una puesta en escena
Well,
de la vieja teoría del caos premeditado.
This is
¿no?
the
La vieja
old.
teoría de Paul
This is the
Wolfson,
old theory of the
llevado a cabo
provoked
por Estados Unidos
chaos
respecto
that
a
is
generar situaciones de
pushed forward
inestabilidad,
through the United
de
States,
desestabilización, presencia de grupos terroristas que
and the
recordemos,
presence of
han sido
terrorist groups that, let's not
avalados,
forget,
organizados,
they have
financiados,
been
armados precisamente por países occidentales.
they have had
con
control
apoyo
over
de
the
monarquías
countries by
como
the
la
Western
saudí. Gran parte de los
Western
grupos
countries.
takfirí
Most
que
of
actúan
these
en esta
countries
zona de África provienen en su apoyo monetario financiero de Arabia Saudita,
come
de
from
los
Saudi
Emiratos
Arabia.
Árabes. Los grupos fundamentalistas que
The
actúan en Libia
fundamentalist groups that
tienen el
work
apoyo
in
de Egipto,
Libya
tienen el apoyo de
have
la
the
monarquía
support of
saudí,
Libya,
tienen el apoyo de los Emiratos Árabes.
and
Y la
they have the
influencia que
support of
ejerce
United
Daesh
Arabs.
o el Estado Islámico de Irak y el Levante sobre aquellos grupos que le han jurado fidelidad,
And this is
como Boko Haram
this is
y
what
otros, sin duda
the whole course
muestran esta línea
shows.
de
This
organización
line
y
of
de origen,
organization.
indudablemente está encaminado a generar
Without a doubt,
desestabilización,
they're trying to
caos,
cause
donde se
instability,
presenten como los iniciadores,
chaos,
como los que ordenan el panorama,
just like
los que
everything
ordenan
that
el mapa, aquellos
holds
países
together
occidentales que han sido
this fabric.
los protagonistas y responsables del surgimiento de estos grupos, y después cínicamente, en forma hipócrita,
And now, with a
aparecen como los
hypocritical
salvadores
way,
de estos
they
países.
they
Lo
appear
han
as
hecho
a
en Siria,
savior.
lo han hecho en Irak,
They've done it
lo
in
hacen
Syria
en
and
Libia,
Iraq.
y lo
They've
hacen
done it in Libya,
indudablemente en cada uno de estos países,
and they've done it in every
donde los
one of these
grupos
countries
terroristas
where the
no
terrorist
tendrían
groups would
ninguna
not have
presencia, ninguna posibilidad de
any
éxito
presence
si no contaran con el beneplácito
if they
de
did
los
not
países
have
occidentales,
the approval
que a pesar
of the
de
Western
tener
world,
bases militares
that although they
desde
have
Djibouti
military
hasta el
bases
Atlántico,
all
son
throughout,
incapaces de generar una situación de
they will not
contención
generate,
de estos grupos. En
they will
Mali,
not
en
generate
Nigeria,
a condition
en
of
Níger, en
of
Chad,
war.
en Libia, es decir, hay aquí una situación de ir generando
So
la
there is
mayor
a situation
cantidad de
of trying to
desestabilización de
create
tal forma que la presencia de
create,
bases militares, de tropas extranjeras,
that regardless
permita
if there is
no solo
some
controlar a los
military bases
gobiernos de
there,
estos países,
then
sino
it's possible
también
to
cuidar los
consolidate
intereses que esos
these
países
countries.
tienen en África. No es casual que
It's
Total
not
Fin,
a
que
casualty
British Petroleum, grandes
that British
empresas
Petroleum
transnacionales de petróleo
and other
estén
big
en
petroleum
gran parte del
companies
continente africano.
have presence in the African continent. And this will curtail what they call Chinese intervention with their companies. So the local, with Mali and Niger, has, and this is for all of the continent, for the Sahel, and this has interests, and at the same time they want to have a barrier in front of the Chinese investments that have been happening in this continent. Let's try our first question to close this first block of analysis. Are these military forces, both of these African countries, as well as those who help this country, are they unable to stop the advance of terrorism? Or they just don't do it because they're not within their interest?
Obviamente con lo segundo, ese terrorismo que fomenta, crea, forma, financia, protege Estados Unidos y Francia en este caso,
United States and France and the UK.
Es un terrorismo que planificadamente hacen acciones militares dependiendo también del juego del mercado, por ejemplo,
I move my hands depending on what the international movements are. Let's not forget that this is one of the greatest producers of oil.
Se producen variaciones en el precio del petróleo. Yo quería decir que además de este terrorismo es el terrorismo que crea Estados Unidos.
This is the terrorism that is created by the United States, but there are deliberate actions of groups that resist these people, that fight against the U.S. occupation. And this reaction is, these attempts don't do anything else than justify the presence of military people in my house. These people produce petroleum, and they also produce oil. That if you don't observe, it's the same resources that Venezuela has. And here we have, they are trying to take over the goodwill of the Venezuelans, because the U.S. troops are in Iran and in all of the countries north of Syria, just waiting for the supply of oil and salt. So it has been a coincidence that wherever we've seen a recipe, it always asks for a rubber band. And of course, what they want to do is to justify having bought that
Organización de Naciones Unidas le imponga medidas a Estados Unidos y a Francia para que terminen de una vez con las acciones terroristas de financiar y entregar el terrorismo en el mundo entero.
To this terrorist international group. That is the only day when we will have peace.
Cuando Estados Unidos y Francia entiendan que
when they attack each other, they must understand.
Como es el petróleo o el oro, deben comprarlo.
They would understand that if they don't have the military capacity, then they should buy it. To the contrary of what France does, because France has been able to do good businesses with France. And I thought that this would be a complementary space for both of us. Nicola, thank you very much.
a Pablo el tiempo que han tenido para nuestra
all of this
primera
time
parte
that
de la
you've been
jugada
giving us
crítica.
for
Marcamos
this
una
first analysis
pausa,
of
le
critical
recordamos
moves.
en
Let's
este
go to a
momento que
pause,
tenemos una
and
jugada
we'll be right
estratégica a
back.
través
Let's
de la
not
cual usted
forget that we have
interactúa con
a
nosotros,
Twitter
potencias occidentales
account by
trazan
which
acciones
you can
conjuntas
participate.
con
It says
gobiernos del Sahel para erradicar
Western
el
rulers
terrorismo en
have
esa
an
región de
action
África,
plan with the
pero
governments of the
en la
Sahel
práctica
to
no lo han
eradicate
logrado.
terrorism in this
¿Por qué?
region of
¿Quién
Africa.
financia
But
estos
the
grupos para
truth is they haven't been
convenientemente
able to
servirse
do
de
it.
ellos?
Why?
Opine. Vamos
Who
entonces
finances
a
these
desplazarnos a
groups?
otro momento,
Let's
a
go
otro
to another
lugar, para
group
ser más preciso, de nuestro estudio.
of this
Y estoy
studio.
caminando suavecito, suavecito, porque mi camarógrafo siempre me dice que ando como alma que lleva el diablo. Voy a saludar a Bassem, que me va a
And
acompañar en
now
este
we're
otro
going to be
momento
speaking
del
with
análisis.
Bassem.
A la pausa y
He's going to be
regresamos.
analyzing with us. We'll be right back. What impact has the terrorist group has had in the Sahel? This is what we've been speaking about, but it's always good to remind what happened. Maybe you just connected with us, and we're going to continue with the analysis. The terrorist groups have an intense action in Sahel. This is the central north part of Africa. For years, the headquarters have been in Mali, and then it's been Burkina Faso, Niger, and Algeria has been a very important place to operate at the international level. There has been a Sahel work group where Burkina Faso, Mali, and Chad has been working. This is a military conjoint action created in 2017. They work in 50 kilometers on both sides to their border, for their borders. The president of France, Emmanuel Macron, had decided to delay a meeting they had in January with the G7 countries of Africa, and they're going to. In May, past May, there was an envoy of the UN that was attacked. This country was intervened in 2013 by France. In 2017, there were 250 terrorist actions, declared the most difficult one.
Bassem
Tajeldine is the international analyst that is going to be with us during these minutes about the situation in the Sahel. Now, our previous guests had told us who are the actors, because we cannot talk of the terrorist groups on its own. I think your development of the story was very good on what all of these groups have implied for the geopolitics of the United States in Africa, in the Middle East, and many parts of the world, even against Eurasia, Russia, and China, and Xinjiang. We have terrorist groups that have a policy in their heads, and they have money. This is the promoter. There's a promoter in Saudi Arabia to expand this ideology that has nothing to do with Islam. But naturally, the person who finances is the United States, and this is through Israel. And Israel works like a puppet. And all of this against China. So we can say that the Western groups have their delegates. And what they're doing is trying to stop the advance of China and of the regions like Eurasia against Russia. And in the case of Libya, with whom Russia has a strong relationship. Well, this is the awful
en la región porque la política, el objetivo es claro. Es lo que decía Alan Wood.
This is what Alan Wood said,
autores,
among others.
Ellos hablaban de la caotización
They
o el
spoke
caos
of the
controlado. Pero vaya, eso
controlled
es
chaos.
Nadie controla el caos. Pero sirve para
But it also
los
destroys
estados
and bring
nacionales.
down the national
Puesto que
countries.
ante
Since
la
before,
retirada natural, económica,
natural
que ha venido
economic,
experimentando Occidente, y de hecho ya lo admitía Macron.
Well, I already admitted it to Macron.
Durante estos últimos tiempos con sus declaraciones,
sí, bastante
al punto que Donald Trump
Well, you can see that he always tries to get into our conversations, but of course, we know now that the West is not the motor of the world. It used to be the center of the power, and now it's China. China and Russia plays a very important role. And in China, with the new geopolitics, just a few dance, which is different to the parade that the university puts forward every year. So they are allowed to have still water and complementary treatment in the international relationships. Well, that has happened. I have been there. I've been able to be in Chad and Senegal. I think Chad is an example of this. This is the result of China in this country.
Digamos, con personas que han tenido la oportunidad de visitar estos lugares y narrar sobre la base de sus experiencias vividas allí. ¿Cómo se pone de manifiesto esa relación de complementariedad entre China y las naciones?
How is the complementary relationship between China and these African countries come about?
La neocolonización china.
Sí, es parte de la propaganda o de la guerra mediática.
And these are part of the strategies. So they can go against China. What they're trying to do is to say that the aggressiveness of China is just the same as the one of the US. And even before this place, they even can play, they can even disconnect the TV, but of course, China is present without a doubt with the country. In countries where this relationship is called win-win, recognized by their own governments. There have been incredible energy that is needed to put away everything. And everything that's fabricated there. And that's called what they call the instability that is trying to bring forth by the authorities themselves. And what is the main reason? Well, we've seen in the past, do you recall? You've commented on the past, that war between the two bigs that happened in 1950 and there were important rules where even Cuba participated in one. They liberated Angola. The USSR falls, there is a change, and then this stability comes to the world with the US hegemony, and once again this reality comes right back, but of course the history never repeats itself exactly. Now there is a contradiction between China and the United States. The United States is trying to get some benefit from this. And this depends on where are the biggest industries that Donald Trump wants to come back to the US. Well, they're in China. China next to the Chinese government under this Chinese socialism, they have been able to develop important areas. And they don't want to go back to the United States because they know that that's going to be cheaper for them and the facilities they might have. And this is go on with important declarations like today. And he says United States. Just recently, American companies were criticizing the government of Donald Trump that won't let Huawei maintain relationships with the U.S. because there are American capitals behind those names. They're pushing themselves.
Es golpear a China en todos los espacios donde pueda golpearla. Y África es un espacio,
Africa is space, a territory. There are important interests
para satisfacer sus necesidades. Y hay grandes inversiones de China.
And there are great invasions of China. Almost over $200 million.
Y a la que se proyecta también importantes recursos. No solamente petroleros energéticos, el uranio, que Francia ha dependido toda su.
There are many other resources that will also push forward. Let's not forget that the uranium enrichment mechanisms always use this type of fossil fuel. So it's important that we all get along well now.
No le conviene que Estados Unidos siga
I think it's not anybody's interest for the United States to keep on pushing forward to create the change.
Ha servido el caos controlado a través de Arabia Saudita y las mezquitas de Arabia Saudita.
Let's go. Let's see what happens with that.
Ideologizando, manipulando,
they are manipulating,
enajenando a grupos que se unen
throwing away groups that are trying to
una guerra santa,
follow a war, a holy war.
Si bien eso les ha servido contra ciertos gobiernos y han obtenido
and of course he's been able to be right on several fronts.
Ahí está el caos. Pero sin embargo, sigue fluyendo el petróleo de Libia. ¿Y a dónde va? ¿Quién está contabilizando ese petróleo que se está llevando todos los días?
Who is counting all those barrels?
Así como ocurre en el norte de Siria, en la zona controlada por Estados Unidos, una base militar que creó ahí. Casualidad,
there is a military
base. El petróleo sirio.
Es correcto, muy cerca de Turquía.
Y lo ha reconocido Donald Trump públicamente. Estamos allí por el petróleo. Nos vamos a llevar el petróleo. ¿Quién le está penalizando a Estados Unidos?
Penalizing United States. Who is
llevando a cortes a Estados Unidos si la controla de cierta forma Occidente, completa, por el robo descarado que están haciendo.
And what they're going to attack him is on the robbery. And of course you're going to go downstairs to find new reasons.
Pero en realidad es un cinturón del caos impuesto por Occidente, del hambre impuesto por Occidente, del caos impuesto.
And let's see that we have to talk about chaos and the impositions.
Del autodenominado Estado Islámico en esta zona del África, en la medida en que el ejército árabe sirio
and the fact that some of these pieces have been liberating these countries from their attack.
En Libia, porque solamente le queda un espacio, Trípoli y Misrata, controlado por estos grupos fundamentalistas que apoyó y sigue apoyando de cierta forma Occidente, pero que ahora se retracta un poco Francia y Europa como tal, porque no conviene.
Claro,
esta cautización.
La Francia de Emmanuel Macron no es la Francia de Nicolas Sarkozy.
Sí. Y las realidades de hoy
and today's realities have changed fundamentally to what they expected.
Crearse las condiciones que estaban generando en aquel momento cuando
they were going to
como otros prefieren llamarlo.
They were going to change everything.
No, han creado un caos.
They have created an uncontrollable chaos. And there's a massive flee from people here to go to as refugees. And this has changed everything. Time, schedules, and they are an ultra-nationalist.
Los globalistas versus los
These people
nacionalistas
who
económicos.
only think on national government.
Aprovechando de esta idea de la avalancha de los migrantes para, digamos que atemorizar a
And
la
what they're
población,
doing
a
is
la
just to
sociedad.
frighten
La
people.
sociedad le emite su voto y ellos ocupan un puesto en el Parlamento,
Así está.
como antes no había
And
sucedido.
this used to be
Así está
before.
Austria, así están varios países en Europa donde estos grupos han ascendido al poder y amenazan los intereses de los globalistas que creyeron que bajo esa política desempeñada
They
por
thought
Occidente,
that by
Estados Unidos,
putting
utilizando
forth
esa
this
política del
technology,
caos,
using this
iban
chaos
a
theory,
obtener,
they were going to be able to obtain,
bueno, consecuencias diferentes.
well,
de las que
different
hemos tenido
consequences than the one we've had
políticas,
now, both
económicas.
economic,
Lo cierto es que
political.
ya Francia está
The truth
recapacitando,
is
se
that
retira
France is
un poco
reviewing
amaga frente a
their
Occidente,
position.
acusa a Donald Trump,
They accuse
no
Donald
solamente a
Trump
Donald Trump, a Estados Unidos.
and the United
Acusa a Estados Unidos porque
States,
inclusive hasta los propios Estados Unidos andan en
because the
esa
United States
retirada
themselves are
cautelosa, pero siguen los
are
grupos
walking
del
away.
Pentágono y ciertos grupos dentro del poder real,
and
del
some
poder
groups
profundo, como
within
llaman otros,
the
dentro de Estados
profound
Unidos,
power
generando esa política que contradice
are
lo que
are
en el
generating
fondo desea, necesita Donald
ideas
Trump.
that,
Y
of
en
course,
medio de
Sí,
todo esto,
ahí está la razón
that Donald
del
Trump
impeachment,
needs.
que hoy están
This is the
dándole
reason for the
a
impeachment.
a Donald Trump.
y además todo
Esa
esto
lucha interna.
en época
And all of
preelectoral.
this
Me gusta
in
siempre recalcar
pre-electorate
este
time.
elemento en nuestra
This is
jugada
very
política
important
porque, llegarán
because
tiempos en que
there
nos
will be
acerquemos mucho
times
más a
when
lo que
we
está
get
pasando
closer
puertas
to what's
adentro de
going
Estados-
on
adentro de Estados
behind
Unidos,
closed doors in
en
the
clave
United
electoral,
States.
una vez entre ya el año 2020. Basen, se nos acabó el tiempo.
Basem,
Siempre
thank
nos
you
falta
very
tiempo
much for
para seguir
coming.
dialogando contigo.
We always need more
Muchas
time.
gracias. Bye.
Thank you
Vamos
very
a las
much.
conclusiones.
Let's go to our conclusions.
Una tesis que muchas
A
veces
thesis that
ponemos sobre
many
la mesa y
put on
proviene
the
de la
table,
sabiduría popular,
and it
ha
comes
sido
from the
revuelto ganancia de
popular
pescadores.
belief.
En el caso del Sahel africano,
In
cuando
the
de
case
ataques
of the
terroristas se
Sahara,
trata,
of
el
the
refrán
Sahel,
viene como anillo al dedo.
there is a
Mientras
saying that
potencias
says,
occidentales
while
se
the West
pronuncian,
are
al menos
pronouncing
eso sí
themselves
hacen, pronunciarse sobre la implementación de
for the
acciones para
implementation of
combatir este mal,
actions to
en el
combat
terreno sigue
the
increciendo la
this
desestabilización
place
sociopolítica y el
in
saqueo por
reality,
partida doble.
the
Extremistas
increased
y
sacking has
transnacionales.
increased.
¿Quién sirve a quién?
Who serves
¿Quién
who?
se sustenta de quién?
Who
Es la
lives
historia
off
del
who?
huevo y la gallina,
This is the
donde
story
el
of the
expoliado
who's first, the
continente negro
chicken or the
hace las
egg.
de nutritivo alimento sin importar los daños colaterales. Cerramos el
We
tablero
close to
geopolítico
an
por hoy.
end.
Hasta otra.
See you tomorrow.